Think about how easily people have been manipulated into screaming out slogans that they really know nothing about. How evil can easily manipulate uneducated people. Hi, I'm Bishop Robert Stearns, and thank you for dropping by. I want us to talk for a minute today about this question that is so much in the media, so much a part of conversation, especially on college and university campuses, and then it spills out into mainstream conversation. This question or this accusation that Israel is an apartheid state, all right? I want us to look at that today and understand that and break that down and consider whether or not that claim is true. So let's begin for a moment this term apartheid. Where does this term come from? What are we talking about when we talk about an apartheid state? The term apartheid originated around the conflicts and the challenges in South Africa. South Africa from 1948 to 1994 enforced a system of racial segregation. It was not that much unlike what was present in America prior to the Civil Rights Movement, a horrible time in America's history where many states practiced forced segregation. Just recently, I took a trip to the Lorraine Motel, the site of Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination. And while I was there, I toured the National Civil Rights Museum, and I saw the heroic, incredible work of Dr. King and so many others who were with him at that time, Andrew Young and Abernathy and Jewish leaders who stood with him. And you really saw the incredible evil that was prevalent in America in that time. Well, this was what existed in South Africa up until 1994. Let me give you some examples of what apartheid was in South Africa. Black citizens were denied the right to vote. It's fundamental. Black citizens were forced into separate schools, separate hospitals, separate neighborhoods. Again, much of this was similar to parts of America before the Civil Rights Movement. Black citizens could not serve in governmental roles. They could not hold equal citizenship. They were not able to participate in society in any meaningful way. This was the apartheid system in South Africa. This is the accusation that is hurled at Israel every single day, amazingly, by educated people. This is the part that makes no sense to me, because I'm reasonably educated. I have 2 college degrees. I don't consider myself a towering intellect, an advanced intellectual. But the answer to these questions is not difficult. Is Israel an apartheid state? All of this list of things we've just gone through: denial of voting rights, separate schools, separate hospitals, separate neighborhoods, no governmental positions. None, 0 of these things are true of the Arabs living in Israel. None, not a one. Israel is a free and democratic state. Arab citizens of the state of Israel, who make up almost 20%, almost 20% of Israel's population is not Jewish. The vast majority are Arab. They have full and equal rights. They vote in elections. They serve in the Israeli Knesset. They serve in the Israeli diplomatic corps. The primary Israeli diplomat who I relate to in Washington, D.C. at the Washington Embassy is an Arab Muslim woman. She's a Muslim woman serving in a high-ranking position in the diplomatic corps. By the way, this would never happen in many Muslim nations around the world. And she lives and moves freely in a high-level position in the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. There are something like 15 members of the Knesset, the Parliament of Israel, who are Arab citizens. Arabs can choose to serve in the military. They work as doctors. They work as lawyers. They work as teachers. There are schools fully integrated, universities fully integrated. They work in all sectors of society. There are many, many, many cities and towns and villages in Israel that are fully integrated. Jew, Arab, Muslim, Christian, living all together. And there are more rights for Arabs who live in Israel than Arabs enjoy in any other Arab nation in the Middle East. Folks, this is factual. This is just real life. This is the reality of the situation on the ground. So people can scream all they want. Hitler screamed. So before you join the screaming, before you pick up a slogan from the river to the sea, before you just yell at the top of your lungs, I think you should think about how easily in human history people have been manipulated into screaming out slogans that they really know nothing about, and how evil can easily manipulate uneducated people. That's the reality of what it is on the ground in the nation of Israel. Now, there's a question. Well, where does this accusation come from and what are they talking about? Well, now we need to step into a different reality. We have to step outside the current borders of Israel proper and into the disputed territories, not the occupied territories, the disputed territories, which are the West Bank and Gaza. So now we are outside of the full borders of current day Israel, and we're into the territories that are somewhat nebulous and disputed. We're into Judea and Samaria, otherwise known as the West Bank, and we're into Gaza. Palestinians living in Judea and Samaria or in Gaza are not Israeli citizens. They're not Israeli citizens. This is a situation that has been going on since 1948 or since 1967, depending on which war you're dealing with. The real issue here has nothing to do with race or ethnicity. It has to do with national security. The Palestinian Authority oversees the West Bank. This is headed up by Mahmoud Abbas, who's serving something like the 21st year of his 4-year term. Go figure how democratic that process is. And Hamas controls Gaza. Israel does not rule over these populations. Let me say that again. Israel does not rule over these populations. However, the populations in both these territories have actively worked to brainwash their children and turn generations into would-be terrorists, and have not actively sought any kind of real peace with the state of Israel. They promote the slogan, "From the river to the sea." What does that really mean? It really means the end of the state of Israel as we know it. And the Jewish people and the world community are not going to allow that. On November 29th, 1947, in full view of the entire world, the United Nations voted. The world family voted and created a Jewish state and an Arab state in that territory. And the Jews said yes, and the Arabs said no. The Arabs didn't say no to an Arab state. The Arabs said no to the existence of a Jewish state. And they've been saying no ever since. War after war after war. If Palestinians are under restrictions in those territories, it's not because of their race or their ethnicity, it's because of their terrorism. It's because no one has risen up in the spirit of Anwar Sadat in the spirit of Martin Luther King, in the spirit of other great reformers who have actually brought their people forward to peaceful solutions. When Israel pulled out of Gaza in 2005, what she was answered with was thousands upon thousands of rockets fired down upon innocent Israeli civilians. Folks, that is what Israel is dealing with day by day. So where is the real apartheid in the Middle East? Do you want to talk about actual apartheid in the Middle East? Well, in the Arab world, like Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan, Palestinians are denied citizenship, denied voting rights, denied job opportunities. Palestinians. Why? They're Arabs. They're living in Arab lands. Ask yourself, why is that? Where is their actual apartheid happening? In Saudi Arabia, women have less rights than they do in Israel. Do you want to look at freedom of religion for Christians, for Jews, for Hindus throughout the Middle East? Try living in a Sharia law nation and being a minority religion, practicing your religion in that place. Only in the nation of Israel do Jews, Christians, and Muslims have equal rights under the law. Can I tell you something? There's racism in Israel. Guess what? There's racism in America. There's racism all over the world. Israel is not a perfect nation. Israel is not a perfect society. But there is not apartheid in the state of Israel. And I want to tell you that the vast majority of Israelis not only would never support apartheid, they actively work against racism where it exists in extremist populations within Israel. Why? Because Exodus 23:9 says this, "You shall not oppress a stranger, for you know the soul of a stranger, since you were strangers in the land of Egypt." The Jewish conscience, the Jewish soul constantly works for morality, constantly works for ethics. I have walked with Jewish friend after Jewish friend after Jewish friend throughout the land of Israel and seen them bring me into the restaurants of their Arab friends, bring me into the homes of their Arab friends, sit down to meals, have conversations. Please become educated. Please understand that someone who screams the loudest is not necessarily carrying the truth. History warns us against those who scream the loudest. This is Bishop Robert Stearns. I'll see you next time.